Howdy folks, welcome back to Boonedockery. If by any chance you happen to have watched my DD 4x4 tarp review, you will have learned that one of my tarps had a little bit of a mishap involving some jagged ice. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how I am going to repair that damage. And what you're going to need is you're going to need to have your damaged tarp, of course, and I am going to be using Flex Seal tape to be able to repair the damage. You will also need a pair of scissors to cut the tape, some 75% or higher alcohol wipes to clean up the area and the surface area before we use the tape. And if you want to add a little bit of that camo back to the exterior instead of having big black patches, which you certainly could do, and they also sell this in multiple colors. You can use on the exterior some camouflage or subdued color duct tape. Folks, before we get into the repair, I just want to reiterate how high of a quality this tarp is. The only reason that I'm doing a repair to it now was negligence on my part. It was sort of accident, sort of negligence, but anyway, had I not been involved in it, the tarp still would have been in perfect condition. I've used these tarps for more than 7 years now, and then of course last year I did the torture test when we went from November all the way into March of this year by leaving the tarps up in a lean-to configuration and into an A-frame configuration. And I would go out periodically to check on them, tighten up all the guy lines, just make certain that they are still doing what I wanted them to do, and using them about every other weekend when I would go to that semi-permanent camp to camp. And they're fantastic. If it weren't for my negligence, it probably wouldn't have happened. So there wouldn't have been any necessity whatsoever to have to repair this now. But since I do have to repair it, let's get to it. Now, this is the small tear that is in the tarp. Once you have this located, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to clean that up. We've got some alcohol prep wipes here, and just trying to get any of the debris, any of the dirt removed from that area. And we're going to do this treatment on this side and the other before we put the tapes in their place. Let that evaporate, and then we will get to this one. Now, when you've located your damage, you want to make certain that it's on a perfectly flat level area, so that way it can stay perfectly flat. And by the width of, or the length of the tear that's in here, as you can see, I mean, it's going to go together. I mean, it's just like a razor thin slit there. That happens to be about half an inch on either side shorter than the width of the Flex Seal tape. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut off a section. It'll probably be about an inch wide. And this stuff is great because the sticky part of this stuff is actually protected with a plastic shield. And believe me, it is sticky. So that's going to cover that up nicely. Now, there's a trick to this, and you want to pull up a corner to get that protective plastic peeled back from the tape. Just a little bit. And we're going to roll that back over it to where just a small amount of a sticky surface is in place. And that's going to be about where I need to have it. Let me check here. That's just about right. So I'm going to go ahead and start that, line it up. Push that down, make sure it's flat, and I'm just going to roll this across the tarp as I remove the plastic shield. Now I'm going to vigorously rub that, really get that into its position. Make sure all that adhesive sticks in here. And on this side, this is the interior. I mean, it's no big deal to have a patch that's very obvious. On the camouflage side, you may want to break that up a little bit, and I'll show you how to do that here in a second. But we're going to do to the other side exactly what we've done to this. As you can see, it opened up just a tiny little bit. We have a tiny little bit of puckering there. I'm going to go ahead and squish that down just a little bit, and we're going to repeat the process. And this time it's not going to be as wide because it's more than covered on the reverse side. So we'll go ahead and cut off a thinner section here. And we'll repeat that same process. If I can get that corner. Try the other one. There we go. There we go. Now this Flex Seal tape is not very thick. I mean, it's probably many times thicker than the actual fabric, but you can see it's not very thick at all, so it doesn't stand out too much. Now this is going to be good and sealed, and this is say for the sake of saying so, we want to sort of break up that pattern just a little bit. Put some green tape over there. Just enough to break it up just a little bit. If you have a cloth camouflage tape with decent adhesion, that would probably work much better than this duct tape. This duct tape is a little shiny. And there we go. The tarp is now repaired and somewhat camouflaged again. Doesn't stand out much at all, and from a distance, unless the reflective quality of the tape gives it away, it blends in pretty well. Well, folks, apparently I had a little glitch with my sign-off on this video, and when I went through and was doing my editing, I noticed that I didn't have a sign out, so this is going to be the sign off. Now, this is the DD tarp that I repaired, and this is the DD tarp that was in the previous video. And I rolled this standing up, and the reason that I wanted to show you this is because I mentioned in the video how difficult it is to manhandle this particular size of a tarp. Now, standing up, not using the ground, this is just about as well as I can get it rolled. And if, you know, I can just wad it up, throw it in the pack, and then, you know, pull it out of the pack and have plenty of floor space or clean ground space to lay it out and fold and roll it properly, I can get it considerably smaller. But again, this is the bag that it comes with. The problem with this size of a tarp is the amount of airspace that gets trapped in it. And like I said in that video prior to this one, is that I can usually get it to fit in diameter, but rarely ever can I get it short enough to be able to get in there completely. I can probably cram it in there to where I could pull it shut, but this is probably the best case scenario for me. Took my time with this, and if you're in a hurry breaking down camp, there's no way in the world I personally can make this any smaller without laying it out. And if you have someone to help you, I mean, it goes a whole lot better, and you can get it, you know, to fit okay. Now, between the time I shot the previous video and this sign off, I received my new 4x4 DD multi-cam tarp. As you can see in this one, this came straight from the factory and folded and rolled, and it is a perfect fit. There's no extra space in here whatsoever. And I might be able to get, you know, squeeze a bologna sandwich or something like that in there. But other than that, no. This is a perfect fit, and this is the best that I can do while out in the field. So I wanted to point those out. Also, the material. I did not know what the material was. And I believe the material that was relayed to me by one of the comments of the previous video was that this is polyester, and that's the reason it's such a different quality feel and the way it folds and rolls and everything else than the nylon, which is here behind me and here in front of me. And so you can tell that by the change in the material, rolling it, folding it, storing it, hanging it, using it is very different than with the nylon. Also, I just wanted to point out real quick how radically the camouflage pattern changed with the sun bleaching. And you know, it's quite different than it looks when it's new. I wanted to point that out as well. And also, I'm going to point this out with the background multicam color, both patterns. As you can see, they are different, but as you could also see in the previous video in particular, and many of my other videos that I've used this tarp configuration, that it is a very effective camouflage pattern. Well, folks, I just wanted to go ahead and sign this off. Hopefully you can agree that the repair is very quick and easy. There's all kinds of different methods that you can use to repair a tarp. You can just use straight duct tape, you can use Gorilla Tape, you could even use a inner tube tire repair kit, or a repair kit that came with a self-inflating air mattress, depending on how large the rip or the hole is. But this was a method that I tried, and I think it worked pretty well. And I'm going to be finding out just exactly how well it worked here in the months to come, because I will be using that tarp well throughout the winter and into spring. And once I hit spring, I have a brand new 4x4 DD multicam tarp to get me through the summer months. Well, folks, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.